Dave Stahl is the car guy. If you're buying a car, if you're selling a car, if you have a car problem, call Dave Stahl, the car guy. Stay tuned for the next 2 full hours. This is You Oughta Know on Intelligent Talk 1170 KCBQ. Call 888-344-1170 right now. 888-344-1170. 888-344-1170. Here's Dave Stahl.
All right, hey, welcome to the You Oughta Know show right here on Saturday morning, KCBQ. We're on the 100th floor overlooking the ocean. Isn't it gorgeous out today? My whole point. Hey, we also have a very special guest in the house, and I know I promised you all I would never, ever do this ever and again, but I've decided to bring an author on air without reading the book. I know. I got emails that choke a horse. But Janet Williams has written a book that I kind of live by. And, you know, after we chat with her for a little bit, you might be surprised as to what you could do with just a few simple tips. You don't ask, you don't get. Janet, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. What prompted you to give people all these great secrets that I've been keeping to myself?
Well, I am a writer. I've also been in sales for quite a while. I'm a sales professional, and I also have a psychology background.
Ah, geez.
And my friends would say to me when I would tell them various stories, I can't believe you asked for that, or I'm going to ask for that next time. And the next thing you know, people would be coming to me for advice, and they'd be saying, what should I say? What should I say?
Right.
You know, you're a negotiator. Tell me what to do. And I thought, I've got some good material here that I need to share with people. I'm going to put this in a book. And that was why I created this book, You Don't Ask, You Don't Get, subtitled Proven Techniques to Get More Out of Life. The book is available at the publishing website, which is www.gooddaymedia.com. This is really a book about communication, about how to ask for anything that you might want in your life. But I certainly have some ways that apply to the car world, and that's why I'm here today.
Well, that's great. And, you know, Jan and I were talking about it, and usually the you don't ask, you don't get doesn't kick in until passion kicks in. Seems like passion is that driving, denominator that makes that you don't ask, you don't get work. You really want to sit in the front, but it's not that big of a deal. I won't even ask. But if you really want to sit up front, if you want to be able to see the guitar strings on that guy, then you're going to try to do everything you can to get to the front. But there's a lot of ways to do it wrong.
Well, certainly emotion plays a very strong part in whether you decide to ask for something. There's actually 7 motivations that I've come up with about why people ask for what they want. And it could be that they're asking for themselves, or they might even be asking for somebody else. They might want something, like a physical thing, or they might want something for themselves, like for their career.
What about a charity worker, somebody that's working for a charity that's trying to get charity, donated to their cause, and just can't seem to get over the hump or figure out it might be in there?
Well, it is in there. It's a great example. I do have a chapter in here on volunteerism because it's a subject that is important to me. I try and include volunteering into my life.
It's all giving back. It's all about giving back.
Well, it's about giving and receiving. When you give, when you're volunteering, you get so much in return. And I've got a great story in there about someone who ran a marathon for a team in training, and just how much she got out of that experience. That's worth the read alone, I'd hope.
So let's talk a little bit about the automotive side of it. You said there was kind of like a chapter on that. Now, did you gather that information from personal experiences, or is it a process that you apply to just about everything?
Well, I do have a whole part of the book that's devoted to how to ask in specific situations. And one of the reasons I do have a chapter devoted to what you should do in car situations is because I spent quite a few years in the car biz myself.
You sold cars?
I did. I started out selling cars for Saturn. And there was you don't ask, you don't get story right there.
Boy, isn't that the truth.
I had not been working. I had to go back to work, and I thought, okay, what can I do?
And you had no car experience.
I had no car experience. Other than that, I was born in Detroit. Does that count?
Should.
Yeah, okay.
You should have something in your veins that would make you jump to Ford, Chevy, or Chrysler. Well, Saturn, you did good.
Well, I decided that I like cars. I've always liked cars. Grew up driving up and down Woodward Avenue.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You ever been there, Jen?
No.
Don't shake your head. That doesn't work.
I've read
There's
about
something
it.
rattling in there. No, I've seen pictures,
Yeah.
but I've never had a chance to run Woodward Avenue. Okay, we digress.
Well, I kept going back to the dealership because I thought, this is for me. I should sell, and I should sell cars, and I should sell Saturns because I thought for me to start out knowing my personality, I thought I'm going to do best in a situation where there's really not so much negotiating. They're a one-price store. So I went back, and she said, well, we like you, but you're going to have to wait. We're not really hiring right now, but I think we're going to be hiring. And I would call, and I would call, and I would kept showing up. And finally, I think it took about 5 or 6 months, and she said, you're really persistent, but in a nice way, and I think you're for us. And the next thing you know, I'm working for Saturn.
Bingo.
Yep. So I worked at Saturn. I did very well. In 6 months, I was the number one salesperson. And after a year and a half, I decided, you know what, this is great, but I've kind of outgrown this particular dealership. It was small.
Yeah.
I thought, I want to move up into something highline. And I got a job at a Mercedes-Benz dealership. It was just a short stint. My overall objective, even when I started selling cars, was I thought, I want to be a finance manager. That's where I'd heard the money was, and I thought it'd be interesting.
That's where the money's at.
Yeah, even
But
though
there's something going with it, folks. It's a big package, too. Stress.
Well, yeah, it was pretty stressful, but I figured, I'm smart. I can juggle a bunch of balls in the air. I can do this. So while I was at Mercedes-Benz, talk about you don't ask, you don't get, and about manifesting, I just happened, coincidentally, to sit next to somebody at a wedding who was a recruiter for F&I managers. And I met him. Yeah, that's how it happened. And we talked, and he thought, you know what? This lady's going to make an awesome finance manager. So the first position he offered me, it was at a dealership that I don't know, it just didn't really ring true.
Didn't click.
It didn't click. I thought, I don't want to go there. I said, find me something else. So then he said, well, I got this Cadillac Subaru dealership that needs somebody. I want to put somebody in there and train them. They really need help. And I went over. I had an interview for the job. It wasn't just a slam dunk. I started training to be a finance manager. They were doing nothing in that finance department. They were just literally doing the paperwork and pushing people out the door. They weren't selling anything. Totally revamped the department. And unfortunately, that dealership was not doing all that well, which is why I was called in the first place. And what I did was great, but it wasn't enough to save the dealership.
Right.
They sold the store, and I was asked to join BMW dealership, which felt very good.
Oh, yeah.
And I spent quite a few years there, about 3.5 years in the finance department. Again, did very, very well. Had a lot of fun. It was stressful, but it was also good.
Right.
And during that time, especially at the BMW dealership, one thing that we always would say was, you don't ask, you don't get. And we weren't just talking about the salespeople. It was everybody. Anybody who happened to work at the dealership, no matter what they were doing, the customers when they came in, if you didn't ask, you didn't get. I just got that drilled into my head over and over, and I started saying it myself, and my friends now, they're saying it all the time.
What's really interesting is when I walked into the break room coming to the station today, I took one glance at the book, which was sitting on the counter. My dad used to tell me that over and over and over again. He was a salesman from way back.
See, there you go.
And he used to say, you don't ask, you don't get. And then I see this as a title of a book. I mean, it just blew me away.
I know. Hey, we're going to have to take a small break. You're listening to the You Ought to Know show right here on KCBQ AM 1170. This is Intelligent Talk Radio.
Take me riding in the car. Take you riding in my car. I'll take you riding in my car.